All right, everyone. We're having one of another of our famous animator interviews today. And today we have Peter Ahern. How are
You
you,
got
Pete?
it.
How's it going?
Good. How's it going? Thanks for
Good,
having
man.
me.
Oh, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. My students appreciate it. So the first thing I usually ask people I interview, where do you think my students might have seen some of your work?
Okay. Maybe on YouTube or TikTok, which I'm not on TikTok, but one of my
I guarantee you my
recent,
students probably are. So they're
I know,
probably
yeah,
well more aware of this than I am. So
people have taken some of my short films and chopped them up and put them all over TikTok into,
okay, great.
six-part series things where uh I'm just like, okay, I let it roll. I'm like, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah.
whatever. It's reaching
Any promotion
people.
is good promotion kind of thing.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they've seen stuff online like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I
yeah.
think didn't you work on a music video for someone
Yeah,
lately?
I've done a couple music videos. I recently did one for ASAP Rocky,
That's it. A$AP Rocky, yeah.
and I did one a few years ago for Snoop Dogg and Eminem.
Oh, nice.
And
Awesome.
yeah, like I freelance, so like my projects
Yeah,
change a lot. But yeah, I think I've worked on a couple kind of like higher profile things that have that people may have seen,
great.
but it's always kind of in the commercial or
Sure,
TV and
sure.
web space. Yeah.
So usually I kind of start, where does your love of animation or art come from, do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it started when I was a kid. I was always drawing. I was reading like the Sunday comics and stuff, and I started making my own comic strips,
Hmm.
Saturday morning cartoons. Like I'm sure this is
Sure.
like a classic origin story.
Sure.
And yeah, and I was always sort of more like
Well,
a
now
an
I'm getting some
illust
younger animators who didn't grow up with that. So I think
I
you and I are
know,
sort of the
yeah,
last
yeah.
of that generation.
It was really like an event. Yeah, you'd sort of like pop out of bed to catch all these
Sure, of course. I'm a
things
child
because
of the 80s. It was all about Saturday morning cartoons. It was all about Teenage
yeah,
Mutant Ninja Turtles and G.I. Joe and all that stuff.
because exactly, and like we didn't, there was no internet, so it was like there was nowhere to like find this stuff on
Right, of
repeat
course.
except for the clockwork of the Saturday morning stuff. But yeah, I was always like I was more like an illustrator and an art student
Okay.
growing up. But then when I was in high school, I got really into like film, and I started consuming and watching a ton of live action and
Hmm.
just like anything, just devouring like the video store, another thing that
Sure.
is not around anymore.
The
Um,
Blockbuster, local
yeah, yeah.
or independent. Every
And
town had
then
like one Blockbuster, and then there was like the one indie place
yeah, there was
where if
like
you
our
wanted
indie
to like,
store, Video Signals. That was
that
like the
also usually
cool.
had to have porn to survive because they couldn't survive against
We
Blockbuster.
didn't have like a back and X-rated section,
Oh,
but like
okay.
um but yeah, it was there's always sort of the local chain.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, and then when it came time to sort of think about college, I wanted to pursue art, but I was really into film, and I was like animation felt like a middle ground where I could
yeah. Okay.
make film, but also still be involved in like the artistic process of things, which I really enjoy. And so I applied to a bunch of colleges that had animation programs, specifically like knowing that's where I wanted to, put my time and effort. And yeah, and then that's like how it panned out. I went to school for animation. I learned
Sure.
all that, and
Where did you
here I
go to
am.
school? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, I went to Pratt Institute, which is
Oh, Pratt. Great. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, in Brooklyn.
So for my students, Pratt is a very respected art school in New York City. So,
Yeah, it's like an art and design college. And their animation department is pretty great now. But like when I was there, it was like this transitional period where people didn't know if animation was going full digital or if there was still going to be the old school
okay.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I went to Pratt because they still had a traditional animation program that was like stop motion and
Uh,
paper and cell. And so that's how I learned, like really
sure,
like in a tactile way. And then of course all jobs and everything else is,
sure.
digital 2D animation. So I had to sort of pick up programs and things like that. But yeah.
Okay, so you have a love, cartoons, comics, those are very 70s, 80s things. You go to art school at Pratt. Pratt's one of the top art schools in the country. Where,
Hmm.
I'm assuming you're like doing your own kind of projects, building your portfolio. Where does that take you?
Yeah, so like part of the philosophy at Pratt was like the do everything yourself kind of
Okay.
thing. And so our homework assignments and eventually our like thesis film, I'm sure your students when they reach their senior year, you're working on like a
Yep.
final independent film. And at Pratt it was always like, you have to make this by yourself. Some schools they team people up.
Right.
It's like it's a lot of work to make a short. And so anyway, Pratt was like, you got to do every part of the process because that's how you find out what you love or what you excel at. And maybe like maybe you'll there's a lot of different opportunities in the animation industry. It's not just being an
Yep.
animator. And so
Sure. Yeah.
you storyboard, you design it, you write it, you
Sure.
sound design it, whatever. So I made this short, and when I graduated, I put it into festivals,
Okay.
and it did pretty well, and it ended up playing around at some big ones. It was like at South by, it was um, winning awards, and
Oh, great.
it kind of
What was it
became like
called?
a it was called Down to the Bone.
Okay.
It's kind of a horror, body horror comedy.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a little bloody, and it was playing in like a lot of kind of the midnight short programs and things
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Was it
But
in kind of like a Spike and Mike kind of thing when that
yeah,
was?
yeah, it was like of that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, anyway, and so that kind of became like a calling card for
Okay.
me and a portfolio piece, and I was able to kind of leverage that into getting opportunities in the industry because I didn't have any network or connections. Like I don't,
Right.
I'm the first in my family to be an animator, so I had to kind of
Sure.
be at square one. Um, but yeah,
Okay. So you kind of you're work you have your short, you're working the festivals. I'm assuming you're building contacts, right? Meeting
yeah,
people at festivals. Even, a lot of times, regardless of whether it's film or animation, a lot of people are like, are festivals still relevant? And I don't work festival circuit, so I'm not going to claim that I know. But what I do read is like, you do it because that's the best place to network.
it's
And
so good. I am a huge like fan of film festivals and I just think they're so inspiring. Like you get to
Mhm.
see like a curated crop of films that like, are really sort of the best of the best or whatever. So whether
Sure.
or not you're participating in it with a film or you're just a viewer, like I just feel like I always walk away from them like so inspired and also meeting all these people. You're there with a bunch of enthusiasts and
Right, right.
filmmakers.
Yeah, it's just you
Um,
get to geek out with other
Yeah,
animation
it's so
people.
fun. Yeah, and so now it's like I feel like half of the motivation for me to make animated shorts is so that I can go to the festivals and they often give you like a free pass or some housing or something. So it's like, it's better to go with the project. It's a little cheaper, I feel like.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so I did that thing and then but I graduated during the 2008 2009 recession, which was like the worst
Right.
thing since the Great Depression in America, and there was just like no work. Everyone
Right.
was unemployed, no opportunities. And I the only thing I got was a internship at a big animation studio in New
Okay.
York City.
Great. Which
Uh,
one? Is it still around?
they're called Curious Pictures, and they're not still around, but
Okay.
they were amazing. It was like multiple floors in this huge building in the city, and like they did everything. They had like a green screen volume where they were
Oh,
doing like
nice.
mocap for video games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They had like a stop motion department where with like a
Oh, wow.
workshop. Yeah, and then they had like a couple of TV shows that they were subcontracted to produce through like Cartoon Network and PBS.
Right,
So they
right.
had like this sort of sea of animators working on those. And then there was a commercial area and there was also like a 2D alley they were calling it, which was like um this last little holdout of sort of people mostly doing backgrounds and character designs on paper or with paint.
Hmm.
And so I ended up sort of interning in that area, and then I would get pulled onto different projects at the studio that were in like a crunch, and they needed like an extra
Sure.
hand.
Okay.
And that's like how I met other freelancers who were a little more senior than me that were working on these commercials and things, and I would we'd sort of burn the midnight oil, and there's like the
Right.
camaraderie, the
Sure,
bond you
yeah.
make with someone when everything's in crisis mode, and then they would go off to freelance at another studio somewhere else, and they would drop my name because they'd be like, "Oh, we need an extra hand. Like, let's get Peter in here." Um,
So I kind of want to touch on this for my students, and this is something
sure.
that, keeps coming up when I interview people. It, regardless of how good or, you are, it's always, you know, it's part of it is being easy to work with.
A
Being
hundred
easy to work
percent.
with, and then that leads to, people liking you, and then, like you said, some people, go off here, they drop your name. Before this interview, I talked about a previous guy I interviewed, whose name is Anthony Scott, and basically he met Henry Selick, and that obviously led to a lot of opportunities for him. So it's all about kind of like, it's you part of the industry if you're going to work in it is networking and meeting people and, generally be considered not a jerk.
You're so correct. I'm glad you mentioned it because I was like, I need to say that today on this because
Yeah. I mean, it's
it's
kind of
like,
the reality. I mean, like, not to say you can't, I mean, obviously you need to have skill. And I feel like this is
yeah,
the same thing in every industry. Like, as a teacher, I've gotten other teaching gigs because another teacher recommended me. I mean, I still know how to teach. It's not like I don't know the subject. I'm just going in blindly, but it's also like, part of it is whoever the employer is usually feeling comfortable with the
yes.
decision. And if someone vouches for you, that makes them more comfortable with it.
Yeah, because like, animation productions are often collaborative. You're working with a
Sure.
bunch of other people. And so like getting along with them and being like um a personable, responsible worker is I swear it's like 90% of it. Like
Sure.
I'm not like the best animator in the world, but
Sure.
like I feel like, that doesn't necessarily always matter. You don't need like a Disney quality animator to be working on a phone commercial or whatever. It's like you just need somebody who's really talented, but also knows how to show up on time and
Right.
hit the deadline. And
Yes.
they
Yeah.
are not a jerk, like you said.
Right.
And now that I'm like, I've been working for 15 years in the industry, and now I'm hiring people and building teams and things like that.
Right.
It's like the first thing I think of. I'm like, well, yeah, they're a great animator, but like they're fun to work with, and I know that they're gonna like take care of what their assignments are, and you don't have to like
Right.
babysit them.
Yeah, I mean that's the top thing. I'm trying to get my students some internships,
Mhm,
just to get their foot in the door. And I try to be like, listen, I'm going to send you good people. Like I'm not going to
mhm.
send you people who you have to babysit or are going to be a problem to you. Because that's the last thing any studio wants is that. They just want someone where they're like, can you please do this? And then the person, obviously,
Takes the feedback well,
takes
and yeah,
feedback. I tell that to
yeah,
my students all the time, and I
yeah,
teach a lot of entry level and I'm like, because we do critiques and I'm like, if you want to work in the creative industry, regardless of animation or design or whatever,
yeah,
you have to learn to roll with the punches. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
just
It's not
reality.
personal usually. It's
I
just
mean, I've
yeah.
had I've had clients literally tell me they don't like anything that I did. And I'm
I
like,
know.
okay,
Yeah, yeah,
well, okay, thanks for telling me. What can I do to do, you know what I mean? Like I
yeah,
had to just be like, all right, they don't like it, fine, whatever, doesn't
yes,
matter. I spent 20 hours on it or whatever. Like,
yeah, totally.
okay, we got to throw all that out. How can we solve this problem? And
Yeah.
that's just part of the gig. And if you don't think you can do that, I'm sorry, I don't know if this is the right career.
Yeah, I think everybody can pick up that skill, but it's
Sure.
yeah, there's a bit, it's a little jarring at first, I think sometimes. Um, but yeah, you get used to it pretty quick. Yeah,
Sorry. So yeah, you were talking about you worked
oh,
at
the
the
internship, and then
Curious, and
yeah.
that kind of led to you getting more freelance or contract
Yeah.
work, right? Is that correct? Or
Yeah, and that's how it went. Like that's how my career started. Got my foot in the door, and then I just kind of built this network kind of in real life, and was it was just through other animators I worked with, and get kind of working with a new studio, getting in their like Rolodex, and then they'd
uh,
call me back or whatever. Um, and yeah, it just kind of went from there. I don't think I've ever really like gotten well, maybe a few, but like most of my jobs are not off of LinkedIn or sort of like want ads or anything. It's mostly
sure.
word of mouth and recommendations from my peers.
Great. And
Yeah.
so and then you kind of does that kind of bring you up to here, just doing various
Yeah,
contract,
I mean, it was like,
freelance work?
it's the classic, you start at the bottom. I was doing like cleanup and color and stuff like that, and then eventually becoming a junior animator and be
Mhm.
sort of doing in-betweens for someone who was drawing the keys, and then becoming a lead.
Right.
And then I still work as like a lead animator and
Okay.
also sometimes like the a director as well or an animation supervisor where I'm sort of I'm sort of responsible for a smaller team under me, but I
Sure.
still have like one foot kind of in the animation trench where I get
Well,
to
can you kind of explain that to my students? Like, what's the difference?
sure
So, okay, I think they know what an animator does because
sure
they have
yeah
animation exercises in class, bouncing balls and all that.
yeah
What's the difference, would you say? What kind of
like a
what happens and
supervisor.
what different skills do you need from animator versus, say, when you're a director?
Sure. I think, like part of when you're a director, your
Uh-huh.
responsibilities are not necessarily drawing all day. It's like you have to interface with the client
Right.
or higher ups in your team, the producers or things like that. And you sit in on calls and
A lot
you
of
sort of
meetings,
like
seems
it's
like when
it's
I
more
talk.
meetings or spreadsheets and
I've never
things
done it at a
where
professional level, but it seems like it's a lot of
yeah, right. It's a different sort of part of your brain, and it's a little more sort of about organizing and like
interfacing with
delegating.
clients and making sure timelines, budgets,
Yes,
expectations.
and then
I
you
used
might have like oh, go
mm.
ahead.
Oh no, I joke because like I do a lot of web development and I
Hmm.
always joke that like half of I can program, I mean this is even before AI, but it's like I could program websites pretty quickly, but my job was always getting the people with the money to move forward with my idea so I could like
Yeah,
go and do it. So I'd be like, okay, here's a mock-up, here's a wireframe, blah, blah, blah. And then
yeah,
once they sign off, it's like, great, done, 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 done. Here you go. Let's review it.
yeah,
And that's kind of what you're doing, but on an animation scale where it's like, okay, the client wants this, or they saw this and they want some changes, and you got to figure out the timeline and budget and relay that information to your team and tell them,
yeah. Because it's like it's not realistic to have your whole animation team sitting in on these calls,
right, yeah, yeah,
or whatever. And so like you're sort of the
point person.
yeah, exactly. And like, it's you take all that information, you process it and you divvy it up and then you sort of reach out to your team and, relay it. You're sort of like you're the quality control. I feel
Right, right.
you're trying to make sure that, if we have to change the concept designs or something, you talk to the concept designer, tell them what the client wants.
Sure, sure.
They send the concept designer will send the new stuff to you and you look at it and be like, yeah, that is what the client wanted. Or you're like, that's not right. Let's go back to
Okay.
it
Yeah.
before, bothering the
Before
client
giving it
again.
to yeah, you're
Yeah.
like I said, I think you said, yeah, you're the quality control.
Yeah, totally. But it's kind
So
of
there's
cool
not
too
a lot of
because
wasted like emails like, no, this isn't what I want. Like, yeah, yeah,
it's a
totally.
lot of like putting out fires and
Yeah, yeah.
but it's also
Problem
great
solving,
like
as I like to
if you
call it.
problem solving, there you go. If you come from an animation background and you're directing or supervising an animation team, I just feel like you have an instinct that's built into
Sure.
it where it's like you know how long something might take or if a client makes an ask for a revision, again, you might be like, oh, that's not possible or you just have a foresight, I think, which I
Sure.
found helpful when I'm contracted in those kind of roles. And you get to delegate to your team. And so maybe like you have a couple animators and one is really good at action scenes and one's really good at effects and
Right.
one's really
Yeah, yeah.
good at dialogue driven stuff or whatever. And so
Sure.
you can make sure when you're looking at the shots in a commercial or music video or whatever, you can be like, let's make sure this person gets the action shot because I know they're going to nail it and we're
Sure.
going to give this close up that's more subtle stuff to this other animator who's really great at beautiful subtle stuff. So it's
Right.
kind of cool to like figure out, because not every animator is different
Sure,
and you
sure.
don't always have to like, be everything. Like you can
Yeah,
excel
no,
at a
I
certain
mean,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, especially in a bigger team, it's like
Yeah.
yes, on a smaller project, yeah, you kind of have to do a lot of things, wear a lot of hats,
Yeah.
as I like to say,
For sure. Yeah.
but in a bigger team, yes, you can specialize. If you're really good at one particular aspect, yeah, you're the guy who does this.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And you're like, get them in. Yeah.
I think my friend Arnie said he was like really good at like drawing water or something. And it's
Ooh,
like back
okay,
in the
cool.
day, like he would just be like, Arnie's the water guy. And so
Get
he'd
the
be
water
drawing for
guy.
like a week or something to like,
Yeah.
animate water. And it's like, yeah, this is which in some ways it's good because that's like, it's good to have work. I can see why it could be a little limiting sometimes, but
Right. Well, that's why,
Yeah.
yeah, you always want to try to be well-rounded, but you can definitely have like a sweet spot of something that you're good at or whatever. But yeah, anyway, yeah, so that's what those sort of areas of production mean.
Right.
And then yeah, that kind of brings us to now. I mean, I also like in my free time I make animated short films, like independent
Sure.
stuff, and then I sort of have like a side hustle, I guess, with those where they're going off to festivals, and I try to kind of take those opportunities when I have them to go to that stuff, and
Well, can you
um,
tell my students a little bit about that? Like when you
sure,
when you work on, say, your bigger commercial projects, whatever
yeah,
they are, versus your own stuff, like what would you say the differences are in like it could be the
um,
timeline, it could be the roles
yeah.
you have to take. Like what do you
Oh
consider?
yeah, it's so different. And it's like there was a big stretch after I graduated where the thesis or whatever you want to call it, your final film that you have to make
Yeah, yeah.
really it's a really tough thing to do. And I was so burnt out from it that I was like, I don't want to make another short. I'm done. I've
Right.
done it. I did it. And then after working in the industry for a couple years, always working on other people's things for hire, you sort of get this itch to be like, I want to self-express. I want to, see my own ideas
Right.
animated or whatever. And the difference is when you're working on your own stuff outside of school, outside of work, where there are no deadlines, you can really kind of spend as much time as you want on it and get it to look the way you want it. Whereas when you're on a commercial or a music video, it's like very tight
Right. It's
schedule.
very like tight schedule.
Yeah, and everything's it's sort of like, you cover all the bases and then you finesse what you have time to finesse, and then usually kind of gets like goes out into the world. And yeah, with your personal stuff, you can definitely sort of meditate with it. You can, yeah, and it's like it's fun to work on your own ideas. It feels different. You kind of go to bed like, dreaming about what you get to wake up and work on the next day, as
Right.
opposed to,
Sure. It's a passion
a
project.
passion thing, yeah, which is something that I was sort of missing for a few years and I didn't realize it, where I was like, oh yeah, like I do love animation, like I love it, but it's like it becomes a job at some point. Your hobby and your job are mixed. It can be like a messy gray
Yeah, I mean, they
thing.
always kind of say anything, once you make your hobby your job, it
It's
changes,
dangerous, yeah,
regardless of
because
whatever. It doesn't matter if it's art or,
yeah,
you know, being fixing cars or whatever it is. It's like, because whatever your job is, you think of it in terms of dollars and cents and, does it,
yeah,
it in some ways can take away some of the fun aspects. But yeah, my friend
yeah,
Arnie said to me in his interview, and I think I kind of always go back to it, where it's like, he's like, you have to decide if you want to be a cog in a bigger project
hmm
or do you want to do your own stuff? He's like, and there's
hmm
benefits to both. I mean, if you're going to be a cog in someone else's machine, the pay is usually better. Uh,
yeah,
you know, Usually they're bigger projects, so it's like
yeah,
you can say you did this and people know what you're talking about. Like my friend did Tron, and every time I mention
yeah,
Tron, everyone knows what Tron is.
yeah,
Versus he did a lot of his own animations, which I'm sure not many people saw. But he
right,
enjoyed doing his own animations because he's a creative person who loves, animation and art and drawing and that kind of
yeah.
stuff. And so it's like you get different things out of it.
If
And
you
you have to decide what's important to you. And it doesn't always have to be forever. It's like, like you did, you work on commercial stuff, which pays the bills.
Yeah,
And
it's a
then
bit one for them, one for me kind of
yeah,
thing.
then when you have some time or if you have some downtime, you can do your own thing and you don't have to worry about, getting stuff done or whether it's going to translate, blah, 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 and it's like
Yeah.
you get different things out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the challenge is always finding the time to do your own stuff, because I do feel
Sure.
like the bill paying jobs are
Yeah,
definitely a
right.
priority. But
Sure, of
like
course.
when you are a freelancer, sometimes you have gaps in between jobs, a couple of weeks or whatever. And yeah, that's where I try to find the time to like lock into, whatever personal thing I'm working on.
Sure.
So it's like still feels like I'm working. I'm still sitting at my desk all day, um but yeah, I know it's like, it's a different type of project.
Sure. What advice would you give? So let's say I have a student, I teach intro. So it's like, very
Yeah.
basic, 12 principles and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's say I have a student who says, okay, I really like animation. Not sure if I'm going to make it a career or not, but I at least want to learn more.
Mm.
I teach at a community college here, so it's not like there's not a path in the way that like a Pratt or a
Yeah, but it's an intro. Yeah, right.
Savannah
You
School of
can,
Design, blah 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 would have. But
yeah,
what would your
cool.
advice be to that person?
Well, I think what's great now is there's so many resources online for like
Mhm.
people to continue an education in like literally like anything on earth they can think of.
Right.
And
Yeah, I tell my students, I'm like, God, if you're a little younger than me, but I was like, if I had YouTube in
I
college,
know,
that would have made my life a million. I mean, there were blogs and stuff, so I could kind of like,
sure.
read some stuff. But back then it was like you basically had to pay someone to get a DVD and like, here's how you use
Yeah.
Maya. And it's
Get
like,
like a big,
you know,
your animation survival
yeah,
kit
you had
book or
it was
whatever.
definitely not. I mean, now you have more data than you probably could ever use. The question, of course, is like who you want to listen to and who's the best teacher,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. But it's like, yeah, I mean, the resources now are kind of crazy compared to people who came before us who were like
Yeah,
learning animation in
definitely.
the 80s and 90s where that wasn't, you had like one book in the library or something like
I
that.
know, yeah, it was like back when, yeah, back when I was in school, it was part of the value of being in an animation program at that time was just the exposure to like short films and things that
Right.
were being shown by my professors, which like, again, before these things were really readily available online, it was like, wow, like I never would have seen this, and I'm like
Yeah.
being inspired by it, and now there's so much online. The problem is, like you said, there's almost too much, so it's like where do you kind of find your, how do you narrow it,
Right.
and find like your resource, because you can't just type in animated short and find something. um
I always say, at least if you're trying to learn something, like less, more about technical, less about like
yeah, yeah, there's plenty of that, and
find the
just
one, there's always
practicing.
usually one or two people you can find. Like I've done this more on the programming side, not the
Uh-huh.
animation side, where it's like, oh, this guy, I get his method. I even say this as a teacher. Like as a teacher, like I'm not for everyone. No one can be. Some people are just going to gravitate towards certain teachers for whatever
Different
reason.
styles of
The way
teaching,
they
yeah.
teach, the way they talk, the way they break stuff down. And it's like, find the person online. Hopefully they're free or they're on YouTube or
Yeah,
something. And it's like, to see how they do it. And then maybe at a certain point, if you want to dive in, usually they'll sell you a course or whatever. I don't know, whatever,
yeah.
whatever it is. Or maybe you can even they'll mentor you if you talk to them online through social
Well,
media
that's the
or
other thing.
something.
It's like finding a bit of an animation community. I feel like is important. Like,
Mhm.
whether your local town or city is doing little meetups or screenings
Right.
of anything, like just going to them and trying to meet other fans of animation. um part of what's nice about being in a class with it is like you have the camaraderie of your
Sure. Peers.
classmates, and
Yeah.
then like there's a bit of accountability on like completing that homework assignment or whatever, and like sort of having something to show and getting critiques and things like that. When you're outside of a class, it's sort of up to you to seek that stuff out, but I do think it's an important part of learning. And so just like, I don't know, getting some like-minded friends
Right.
online or whatever to sort of show animation tests or anything, just to kind of feel like your stuff is being seen and
Right.
validated. Like that's important.
Sure.
Yeah, and another thing is, like I mentioned, like going to screenings or local things like that. But like you could get a pass to the Ottawa Animation Festival or something. You can
Sure.
go to like these big things, and
Meetups.
I know
Or
it's an
festivals.
investment,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's like it's so incredible. It's like Disneyland for animators to go to these, and like you meet so many people, you see so much stylistic exploration of the medium, and you
Right.
just walk away from it like, wow, like I want to be an animator or whatever. So
Right. Yeah. It's very inspiring.
yeah,
Oh, right. As we kind of finish up here, I always kind of end on this question, and you can
yeah,
answer it however you want to answer it. It's some people might talk about it from a industry point of view. Some people kind of talk about it from a creative point of view.
okay.
Where do you see the animation world going in the next 10, 20 years?
Wow.
I know it's tough, and
Yeah, that's a big question. I think a lot of people, myself included, are kind of wondering the same.
right,
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's not going anywhere. I think it's sticking
sure.
around. It's a beautiful medium and it is appreciated. Um, but yeah, it's evolving, I think. There was a lot of fears of AI and stuff like that coming for it, but from what I've seen, I don't think that AI is I don't know. There's a lot of kickback in the industry. People are like very
Sure.
like anti it. They don't want to use it on projects and things, which is great. And also, I don't see it right now like replacing 2D animation or 3D animation in a way that, is going to cut out an artist completely. You still have, I don't know. If it
My
becomes a new
my
tool, great.
Yeah. My feeling about it is with AI is going to be used for the people who are already too cheap to hire a good production anyway. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like I kind of joke to some other people. It's like the kind of people who post a project on Fiverr for $50. It's like, did you really want to do
No, yeah,
20
yeah.
hours of work for $50? Like, though, because someone who's going to do it to AI, they're not going to spend like a large amount of money. Otherwise, they would
Yeah.
have done that. So yeah, those smaller, like kind of, I don't know, almost like Fiverr type stuff, I could see going away. But like as a
Yeah.
professional, did you really want to work on that in America? I don't think you could really even survive doing that kind of work even before AI. The problem I kind of see, and I've talked to a lot of animators about this, unfortunately, it's not AI, it's outsourcing.
Mm.
That's probably
For a lot of television shows,
for
that is
for a
what
lot of TV
happens.
and movies, and that's
Yeah.
nothing new. I mean, Disney started outsourcing in the 70s, so it's, but now it's become a bigger issue. And the other, although for smaller projects like more commercials and stuff, that's not happening.
Commercials, yeah, it doesn't seem to happen. But yeah,
For
television,
bigger
or
projects like
animating it over in
like a Netflix
Korea.
show or something,
Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
And the biggest problem in, in one, the economy in general is slowing down, regardless of whatever industry you're in. Two, when you have the first biggest media company buying the second biggest media company, you're just going to end up with less competition, and less competition means less work. Like, like,
Lower budgets and you can't hire
well,
as
just
many
like there's just
people.
less companies putting money out there. Like, if
Yeah.
you have two companies making a big movie versus one company making a big movie, well, now you just lost one big movie. You know what I mean? It's like that's
Yep.
just what happens when industries consolidate. And unfortunately for media, at least at the moment, that seems like that's happening.
I know.
Uh,
That's why independent film and
yeah,
artists is so important, like
right.
making your own stuff, because it is like the only sort of counter you have to these juggernaut studio things. And yeah, you're not gonna like, you know, make a huge mint off of your
Sure.
little shorts or whatever, but like you can catch the attention of people and like there are, breakthroughs and successes and things that are happening with that. So yeah, I don't know. I think that is like kind of the only way to counter the monopolies of the, big
Sure.
titans. Um, but no, yeah, it's all fair what you said. I agree.
Do you have any
I know it's like
parting?
I feel like we got to end it on a positive note. Maybe
Yeah, I would
like
like to. Do you have any kind of like, parting advice for my students or words or anything? You don't have to, by the
uh
way. I once
yeah,
had
no, I
someone
mean,
say like, I don't have anything to say. And I was like, okay.
no, no. I just I feel like, watch independent shorts. I feel like they're just such a great way to I don't know, learn about different ways of storytelling or different ways to use a medium.
Mhm.
Um and the other advice is I guess more like, holistic. Like you have to take care of your body, like stretch, walk, like all these sort
Sure.
of things. You feel invincible when you're like 20.
Right,
But
right,
like as you work in this industry or any sort of arts related industry, I feel like it is sort of there's like a labor aspect to it. You're kind of
right.
like doing this or there's a lot of like hunching and you're um and there's a lot of sort of being in isolation, like being at your desk in a bubble working
Yeah,
on
of
your
course.
thing,
Yeah.
on your assignment. And I think it's really important to like take a walk during lunch and to stretch and all this sort of stuff, which it's just something I always tell like classes when I talk to them. I'm like just get in the habit of it early because yeah, you'll be able to go further and longer in the
Sure.
in the long run.
Great.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think that's a positive, good note to kind of end on.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's keep it
Thank you for
positive.
having me.
Thanks for being here. If my students wanted to see your portfolio or
Yeah.
follow you on
Check
social
out
media, do you have any of that for my students to follow?
yeah. So you can go to my website, which is peterahern.com. It's all one word.
Okay.
My Instagram is like a spin-off of that. And yeah, you can check out if you're going to an Alamo Draft House. I don't know if you guys have those cinemas.
We do in San Francisco. I
Okay,
don't
yeah.
teach.
So every screening Alamo is doing of Obsession, which is like a new horror movie out right now.
Okay.
There's in the pre-show is one of my animated shorts called Buzzkill. And
Oh,
so
awesome.
if you go a
Yeah.
little early to the film, you can see my short film,
That's
which is
very
really
old
cool.
school. They're like doing the old school play Looney Tune before the major.
Yeah, they're bringing it
They
back, which is like I'm really excited. It's such a great, I'd rather watch
should
a
bring back
short than
cereals. We should have like
they should. It's better than, a Coke ad or whatever. I guess those are, those pay, but yeah, they're rolling out this new thing. So there's an animation program that just partnered with Alamo Drafthouse, and
oh, that's awesome.
they're putting little short films before features that have a thematic tie-in. So
I
there's,
tried to do that with my local independent theater. I was trying to see
oh,
if like
cool.
they would take my students' animations before, like, because sometimes
That's a
they'll show
great
like,
idea.
yeah, like whatever the new Pixar movie is. It's like, hey, would
Perfect.
you throw in some students' work? Just, I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like it's no cost to you. I mean, I get that they maybe, but it's, yeah, I try
No,
to
but
do.
at like a
It
place
sounds
like
like
the
that on a
independent
much
ones.
grander scale than what I was doing. But
No, but I mean, it's like, at the smaller cinemas, like their pre-shows are often just sort of clips and things
yeah,
that they're
yeah,
cutting together,
super
and it's
like
not,
local.
yeah, it's a perfect spot for it. So I'm glad you tried to set that up. Well,
Great. Well,
anyway,
yeah, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
yeah, thanks so much.
And